Okay, I figured out what was going on with this wheelhouse extension. So, right here. So I had it on the outside. This wheelhouse extension needed to be folded a little bit outward, and it went up underneath this area right here. And this area here, I'll show you on the other side. This obviously needs repairs, and I did the other side. There's a bracket that goes on top of all this. That's why those spot weld holes were there. But this went down and it went over top of the wheelhouse extension, and it originally spot welded on. And on the other side, let's take a run over and take a peek. So here's the other side that's complete, and there's that support brace that I've never seen on any other of these Thunderbirds, but this was on this car. And then this is how the wheelhouse extension comes back, and it goes up underneath that piece in there. So I think we've got it now. It's not pretty. So over here it's fitting relatively decent. Like I said, this has to go up, but it's fitting in here without pulling this too much. So on the trunk pan, I marked a little target so I'd remember where it was, and I marked on the quarter panel, patch panel, it's 16 inches. So it's 16 inches from the cut edge, which is right here. So this will have to go in more yet. So from 16 inches from there to there. And if this is straight, then the rest will be fine. But it all has to be pushed in some yet. So there's going to be some manipulation as we put it in. So doing a little curvature on this part of it here with the English wheel. Well, I've got the wheelhouse extension all plug welded in, so anything from now on is going to have to be done in place, and that's fine. We can do that. I also have the wheelhouse itself, the outer half of the wheelhouse right here, and it needs a little bit more work, but the work it needs to be done on it now can be done in the car, and then I can line up better with the wheel arch. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to red oxide all this stuff, and this wheelhouse itself, the outer wheelhouse, I'm going to red oxide it and have it ready for tomorrow to put in. Well, it's the next day. This is looking pretty good. It still needs a bit of work right here in this area, but I'm going to fit it inside the wheelhouse and see how it goes. And if it fits fairly decent, I'll weld it in. So let me get that done. Gotta get some clecos. There's some fiddling around here that needs to be done. But I think we're gonna be able to weld this in. All right, this will be a long process, guys, so I'll get it done and I'll bring you back when it's done. Well, there it's in. Holy, that's a lot of work. Just have it tacked in right now, all along the perimeter. Pretty ugly welds, but I'll get her. Especially down in that area. It's pretty rough. And this whole section here has to be rebuilt anyway, so I wasn't too worried about down in there, but I just wanted to keep it aligned. Now this, where the wheelhouse extension is, right here, this has to be, this lower piece, the extension itself, needs to have the same matching flange as that. So there's a bit of manipulation, and I already knew that this needed to come back further to tighten up to align with that. But other than that, it's aligning pretty good. Oh, and I went ahead and I plug weld this part in. So this piece slid underneath the inner wheelhouse itself, and that's how they were designed from the factory. This needs to be cut off because that's kind of how it went. I just forget if it was right to there. I believe so, right to that corner where the cutoff was. Anyway, I'll take a look at the other car just to make sure. So in here, I almost forgot. I took this piece off and I was going to show you guys what needs to be done in here. So what still needs to be done is the rocker panel needs to be fixed, needs to be brought out to about there and welded back onto the car before I can put this panel on. Also, there's a little bit of the pillar that needs to be replaced, just a small bit. That's easy to do. Some plug welds need to be finished, and a hole for the bracket that goes in here. And I believe up here, yeah, there's some welding to do on these joints right here. But other than that, that's all that needs to be done in there. This was a whole area that I had to restore. Of course, that's the way it goes, and it was the same on the other side. All right, so the wheelhouse extension has a few more things on it that need to be put in before I put the patch panel on. So right here, and I'm just eyeballing it, about that far up and about this far back, so I'm gonna put a dot right there. There is a hole, a 3/4 hole for a plug. Right here, there's also a hole for the drain, for the filler neck drain area. And I'm just gonna kind of put it in the middle. I don't have the actual rubber. I'm sure it'll be fine right there. Also, there needs to be, in this area here, a bossing or an imprint for a drain hole, and it would go that way. There's a rubber that goes on that for this drain right here. So I made a tool for that. So let's get these done, and then I'm going to find the tool, and we'll I think it may actually, look at that. Yeah, it goes right to the end. It's pretty close, right about here is where it goes, more like this. Anyway, a lot of lines. Anyway, let me find the tool. First, I'll drill those couple of holes, and I'll get a step drill, and we'll do that out. So I'm just going to put a 1/8 hole in first. Just to start the stepper. This goes up to a 1/2 inch, I believe. Maybe. Doesn't matter, we're going to 3/4. I like these step bits. All right, I'm gonna go find a larger one. So I'm gonna go up to 3/4, which is right about there. I can see it. I'm gonna call it right there on that. I don't want it to be too big. That battery didn't last long either. Anyway, I'll get those after. Now, I've got to look for my tool. I've got my tool here that I have for putting these little drain hole impressions in. They're just an impression, and then there's a rubber piece that goes on, it's on the other side of it. And I'm just trying to think now how I made this. Essentially this is a backer piece, and then it'll go on there, and then I'll put this on here with a piece, and I'll bolt this piece on the other side. And then I used, if I remember correctly, I used my ball joint tool, removal tool, to press that in. So let's see what we can do with it. So start off with, this needs to go in. So I have to drill a couple holes. I just mark it. And these holes will be used to put the rubber plugs in. And one plug hole is smaller than the other if you're doing this. Not like you will be, but just in case you are. All right, I'm going to open those up a tiny bit. Then there has to be a center hole put in. Just a little bit. Because, what did I have here now? These are just to hold the plates together. So this one goes on here. So the edges are all polished up a little bit. They're not perfect. It's just something I threw together to try to get this to work. Hopefully this will... I'm going to put it through this way. A little easier maybe. I made this a few years ago and now I'm forgetting how it all goes together. There she is. Yeah. She's coming. Starting to remember. Now these were only here, these were just here as guides to hold the other side together so they don't have to be tightened up much. But now I have to put a hole in here. So I think I'm just going to drill it. Actually, no, I'm going to start it with the small bit so it doesn't walk around so much. The great thing about the step bits, if you're not bang on, they'll dig the hole for you. There. There, that's through. I think that'll fit. Now there's a big bolt that goes in here, like so. And I just forget now what I did with all this. We'll figure it out though, we'll figure it out. And then I had a spacer for some reason. Spacer nut, it was in the bag, so I'm gonna put it on and I assume that's where it went. And then this one on here, and then I had a bar across the back, across these two metal pieces. My light in here, sort of like so. This is going to get warped pretty bad. I can tell you right up front, that'll be warped. All right, let me see if I can get my ball joint tool out. And if it doesn't pop out of here, I think what I did, I know what I did. I had that nut. Let's do it different because this is going to pop. Well, I'll try it. If it pops out, I'll switch that big nut on the outside for more of a cradle. It's going. Now, it may split the metal, and that's fine because I can always weld it back up. We'll get some sort of an imprint in it anyhow. Almost as far as it can go. Just a little bit more maybe. I'm going to call it there. and I can hammer and dolly any imperfections out. Save our block. There's the press piece back. How did it turn out? I think that works pretty good. That worked pretty good. I get these little bolts out. Don't need those in there anymore. Is it factory? No, but it's pretty mint. It's the illusion. What they call that? Perceived perception. Perceived perception of a good hole. Anyway, I put that back in the bag in case I do another one someday. So what I was going to do, I would put this nut and washer on like this, and then say it's on there, and then this would go over it just as a cradle for the tool. But I didn't need to, it worked. There. Now, I'll have to hammer this because this warped it all. This will have to be all hammered back up, but it looks like a pretty factory right there inside. Looks fairly factory, I think. What do you guys think? All right, well that's done. So that's in. And I'll drill this hole out more when the time comes. It needs to be actually cut down so the water can drain out. So this will be a slot down in there so the water will get out of it. But for now, I can dolly this stuff back up, make it nice and neat. Of course, it changes everything a tiny bit, but that's that. So we got this hole, I'll put a little primer on them. Looks good. On with other things. I just made a piece of 18 gauge. I just used my shrinker to get the curve, and it matches perfectly. It's the same width as this. And now I've just brought over the with a clamp over to the edge there, so I'm gonna weld that on and then move the clamp, and I probably have to go up top and pry it out. Started doing the flange for this filler piece that goes down above the muffler. So I got the flange on there, had the flange on there. She's rough looking welds, but it's welded in there. I'll have to put some fillers in, of course, and same with up in here, a little bit of filler. But she's coming. And then I have to cut this section out. Now I want to save this hole. And anybody know what that hole is for? Put it in the comments, and I'll tell you in the next video if no one figures it out, but I know someone will figure it out. So I need to basically cut it. I want to get rid of all this swollen stuff. Probably have to cut it back from here. At least put a new, follow it along. I want to stay under that hole. Now there's a little hole here I can patch. I can cut out and put a patch in it. But I don't want to have to remeasure where that hole is. I want to keep that there. Well, while I had a few minutes, I started to work on this lip here, wheel arch, rather. So I just ground it flat, and now I have to go up. I'll take it off and I'll grind it flat on the other plane. And in here, I did a little bit of grinding. This all needs to be welded better. Oh, focus, finger of the way, maybe. Anyway, that's what's going on in here, and I haven't ground anything in there. But she's coming. Well, there we go. We got a little more going on here. Got a filler piece put in. I cut and butt it. It's not welded all in, of course. But this one here, I kind of cut it too wide. So I think I'm just going to nip it right off and just put a new section right in there. There's going to be a little more flange work done up along here, but I can get at that anytime. But yeah, so I'll get that replaced. Continue welding, I guess.